It's the show that wanted a date with Ripley, but all we got was clone number 7. It's episode 17 of World of Stu.
You want a podcast? Well, here's a podcast. You want a podcast? Here's the World of Stu.
Now, normally at this stage I would say hello and welcome once again to episode whatever it is. Of course, this week it happens to be episode 17 of World of Stu. But I'm getting sick of saying that every week, so I'm not going to bother, although I just did. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, but what do I know? Anyway, on with the show. I am, of course, Stu, and on the other end of my Skype line should be my co-host, Dave.
And here I am.
How you doing, mate?
I am very good. It's very windy here in Gloucester. I don't know how it is in Birmingham.
Is that supposed to be a Birmingham accent?
No, possibly a Gloucestershire accent, I'm not sure.
Alright, okay. Because you don't really have a Gloucestershire accent either, if we're being honest.
I don't, if we're being honest, do I? Which is kind of strange, because you only grew up a few miles down the road from me, and yeah, you've got a bit of a Gloucestershire accent and I don't.
Well, I think Gloucester accent's cool because farmers and pirates sound pretty much the same.
They do, but I'm not sure which you sound more like.
I'm going with pirates.
Fair enough.
So, we're going to start this week with the news, right? Because it's basically become a regular feature.
That's well, you've got to do news, haven't you?
Right. Now, because it's become a regular feature, Dave, I've been tinkering around as I do, and the news now has its own jingle.
Yay, jingles. We love jingles.
And it goes a little something like this.
From the furthest reaches of the Geek Universe, it's the World of Stu news.
There you go.
What's that, Chipmunk?
It wasn't a chipmunk, no, it was just kind of me messing around. Do you know what? I actually put more effort and time into this show, which we do for free, than I ever did into our radio show on the Falcon.
That's quite funny.
Which is just mental. I actually spent days preparing this show, which is crazy because we probably got an audience of 5.
That is a bit crazy, but there you go. It's the price of freedom, isn't it?
The price of freedom. I want my freedom!
Well, freedom, you've got to stay vigilant, you've got to fight for your freedom, haven't you?
All I can think of now is George Michael, but we're not going there. Right, I'm going to start the news this week by asking you a question, Dave.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to say a name to you, and I want you to say the name of the person who created said name.
Okay.
2 words, Harry Potter.
J.K. Rowling.
Ah, there you see, you've fallen into the trap. Because I have discovered some very interesting and slightly disturbing news.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, I read this week that there is going to be a film released, an animated film called Troll, The Rise of Harry Potter Jr. Right?
Really? Oh, yeah, I had heard something about that in the grapevine.
Yeah, it's, like I say, it's an animated remake of a film called Troll from 1986. Now, the film Troll tells the tale of the Potter family who move into a rented apartment in San Francisco. The young girl of the family, Wendy, goes to the laundry room where she meets the wicked elf Torok, who uses his magic ring to possess her. He then uses her form to transform the family and their apartment into other trolls and his kingdom. Harry Jr. realises that something is amiss with his sister and enlists the help of the good witch Eunice St. Clair. Apparently, Harry Potter Sr. is played by Michael Moriarty. No, it isn't. Michael Moriarty? Who the hell is Michael Moriarty? I have no idea.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, you've heard of him?
No, well, I thought the name sounded familiar, but of course there's Moriarty, isn't there? I was going to say it's Shakespeare then, in Sherlock.
It's not Moriarty anyway. Harry Potter Sr. is played by Michael Moriarty, who you may not have heard of, but he played Hitler in a 2007 film called Hitler Meets Christ.
That one must have totally skipped me by, and I'm amazed by that, because that sounds amazing.
It's basically a film where 2 men meet in a train station, and one believes he's Hitler, and the other believes he's Christ.
Oh, that could be cool.
So you're going to have to search that one out, Dave, Hitler Meets Christ. On the flip side, Harry Potter Jr. was played by Noah Hathaway, who is best known as Boxy in the original Battlestar Galactica, and he also played a Troyu in the Neverending Story.
Doxy in original Battlestar Galactica?
Yeah.
Wasn't he like a little bear?
I have no idea. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't.
I've probably lost all my geek cred there, but I'm sure Doxy was some kind of little mechanical bear.
There wasn't a bear, it was a dog, wasn't it?
Well, bear dog, kind of. He was a robot thing.
A bear dog. So, the makers of the film from 1986, Troll, they came up with the character Harry Potter, although technically it is Harry Potter Jr., not Harry Potter the Wizard.
Well, so are they kind of taking any kind of action there? Are they not suing J.K. Rowling for her millions and billions?
Well, apparently the man behind Troll did at one time consider suing Rowling, but never got round to it because he was too busy doing other things.
Fair enough. And that story doesn't sound hugely like the Harry Potter series, I have to say.
Well, it's got a character called Harry and it's got magic in it.
Yeah, but a character called Harry with magic, I mean, you know, she got 7 books out of it in the end, so I'm not sure. I think it might take a little bit more than just saying, oh, it's Harry and it's magic to get there.
Well, Patricia Arquette has signed on to do this animated film, so there you go.
Oh, well, it could be alright then.
Another bit of news for you, Dave, is apparently Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy. Have you heard about this week?
I have heard that, and I'm quite excited by that, actually.
They've reportedly signed on for more X-Men movies. Now, the question I have for you on this is, my understanding is that X-Men Apocalypse is the last of the Singer X-Men films.
Yes, but also the last in that kind of trilogy of X-Men films.
So, and then my understanding was that after that, they would obviously bring in a new director and bring in different actors, you know, effectively reboot the franchise again. But clearly that is not the case.
Well, you know, I'm kind of glad that's not the case, because they've kind of created it in a believable universe again, and they've always been fairly good with taking actors at a certain point in their career and letting them move on across the next 5-10 years to play the characters several times. Obviously, that's really played out with Hugh Jackman, hasn't it? I mean, the fair play to Hugh Jackman for the commitment of playing Wolverine for so long, but they've got to hand it over to other actors, haven't they? So younger actors. This young actress playing Storm actually looks quite cool, I think.
But can we agree that we're happy that those characters will remain and it won't be rebooted?
I think so, because I remember them saying that once X-Men Apocalypse is done, it'll be like a trilogy, 60s, 70s and an 80s X-Men film. And I'd quite like to see a 90s X-Men film, because that's when I was most into the X-Men. And I think that was actually quite a golden time for the X-Men comics as well. So I'd love to see a 90s X-Men film.
Well, watch this space and see what happens. And we have some breaking news, Dave.
Ooh, that sounds good.
This is news that I only discovered, and it was only released 3 hours ago.
I think I might know what that is.
Mark Ruffalo.
Yes.
You know where I'm going?
I do know where you're going.
Mark Ruffalo, a.k.a. Bruce Banner, a.k.a. The Hulk, has been spotted in Berlin, where they are currently filming
Captain America Civil War.
Which is very exciting, but also slightly worrying.
Why is it worrying?
Because, as you know, I am a comic book purist.
Yes.
Right? So, I was quite happy, although I'm not, you know, too happy with the fact that they're going the way they are in the MCU, I was happy with the fact that it appeared that the Hulk would be nowhere near Civil War. Because, as you know, he was away in space at the time, yeah?
He was, yes.
Right? Now, the reason why I'm worried about him being in this film is the whole point of Civil War is that it works because neither side has the Hulk. Right? If either of those sides has the Hulk, they win.
Ah, but you know what? I had also heard another piece of news. This might also tie me with another piece of news from a while back, which you might have forgotten. I forget the name of the actor, but the actor who's playing General Ross is also going to be in Civil War. So that could also tie in as well.
But if the Hulk is in Civil War and he's on the side, do you not agree that that side wins?
Yeah, I fundamentally agree, but whichever side the Hulk is on should win, because he's the Hulk.
Unless they bring in Sentry.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
but that's a whole different ball game. So watch this space, because the Hulk may very well be in Civil War.
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings on that. I think Mark Ruffalo is such a great actor. I look forward to seeing him in whatever Marvel Universe film he's in, to be honest.
Now we're going to close this week's news, Dave, with... I don't know why I do this to myself, but it's Ghostbusters news.
Oh, no. Tell you what, you go for Ghostbusters news, and I think after Ghostbusters, I've got one tidbit of information which I might have left out of last week as well.
Okay, cool. Well, apparently, on the July the 29th, screenwriter Drew Pearce confirmed that a new all-male Ghostbusters film is in the works, and that he has actually written a screenplay for it.
Okay.
This was a conversation he had while he was on the red carpet of Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, which he also wrote. He revealed that he and the Russo brothers, who directed Winter Soldier and are working on the aforementioned Civil War as we speak, have a bold plan for a shared universe with Paul Feig's female movie. He also confirmed that he wrote this film with Channing Tatum and Chris Pratt in mind. These rumours first came about in March. Now, 2 days later, on the 31st of July, Ivan Reitman, in response, of course Ivan Reitman directed the original two films, he has said that only the Feig movie is in the works and there are no plans for a male-led film. His actual quote is, "There's been a lot of excitement recently about the Ghostbusters franchise." Not really. "As the producer of the new film, I feel I need to clarify there is only one new Ghostbusters movie, and that is the Paul Feig directed version coming out next July. The rest is just noise."
So a lot of rumours there.
So it's a bit of he said, she said, but it's he said, he said.
But then again, when someone's working on a film, it's not unknown, is it, for them to just come out and go, nope, there's nothing going on. And actually then, a year later, you find out there is.
Now, Pierce, right, if he is writing an all-male Ghostbusters, which, again, I don't want, but he wrote Iron Man 3 and All Hail the King, which was the little short that he wrote to try and save the fact that he destroyed Iron Man 3. In my opinion, I know you don't agree, right? Okay. And the Russos, if they're on board, obviously we know that they have done Winter Soldier, they're working on Civil War, they've also done Welcome to Collinwood, and they are also directing both parts of the Infinity War.
Which will keep them busy for quite a while.
Yeah. So, technically, I should be excited about a Ghostbusters film involving these people, but I just cannot find it in me to be so.
I think you're absolutely right there. I would like to think that as any director in Hollywood, that if that project comes across your table, you'd just like to go, you know what, no, I'm a huge fan, and no, I'm not going to do it. That's what I'd like to think. That's clearly not the case, though, is it?
No. It's like the whole Batman movie. I just can't get behind Ben Affleck as Batman. I'm sorry. But, yeah, we'll go with your news, and then I've actually got a piece of Batman versus Superman news.
Oh, very cool. Well, you know what my news, I think, was just from last week. You might have missed it. 20th Century Fox mentioned that there is a possibility in the future of an X-Men and Fantastic Four movie. So, of course, they own the rights to Fantastic Four and the X-Men movies. There's a possibility of them amalgamating that universe. And I kind of believe this week that came a little bit closer. As you may not have noticed, the Deadpool trailer is officially coming out sometime today.
Yeah, it's on the Conan O'Brien show, I believe, later this evening.
It is, but there's also another full-length Fantastic Four trailer, which had a tiny little bit of Deadpool at the end of it.
Alright, okay, I haven't seen that.
Not actually him in the Fantastic Four film, but, you know, as the trailer kind of goes a bit funny, a bit blurry, and there's Deadpool sat in his chair, saying, you know, as if you want a special treat, go watch Fantastic Four and watch my trailer at the start. And that's basically it. But the very fact that they're putting Deadpool in a Fantastic Four trailer kind of shows me that I think they've seen how big the Avengers is, and they've seen how big Batman vs Superman is going to be. So I think 20th Century Fox who knows, a couple of years down the line when Fantastic Four are inevitably not big again, and they run out of ideas for new X-Men movies, even though there's decades worth of great stories, I think there's going to be X-Men and Fantastic Four.
Although I wouldn't get too excited about a crossover trailer, because have you seen the Inside Out and Ant-Man crossover trailers they've been running?
I haven't seen that, actually. That just kind of sounds daft.
What's all that about? It's because obviously they're both owned by Disney, because
Yeah.
Disney own the world, and it's basically like the Inside Out people as if they're inside Ant-Man, I think.
That can be weird.
Yeah, it is very bizarre, but yeah, so whilst I understand what you're saying, don't get too excited about crossover trailers. They might not mean what you think.
Yeah, well, with crossovers, I think you always have to hold your breath, because I don't believe they always work at all.
And finally, although I said that I only had one other piece of movie news, I forgot I had some information about the Batfleck vs Superville movie that's coming out. Superville, yeah. Apparently Zack Snyder is in overall control of the DCEU, which is the DC Extended Universe. Were you aware of this?
Yeah, well, I think it was clear that he kind of had a lot of control, but I didn't realise he was totally in control.
Yeah, he is like what's the guy who's overseeing the entire Marvel universe?
Kevin Feige.
Yes, he is basically the Kevin Feige of the DC universe.
You know what, I think Zack Snyder might not be the right guy, but I have to say, as long as they've actually got someone in charge who's actually putting stuff together with a plan, because that's the way to go. Marvel clearly had a plan all those years ago. They had a plan. They just laid their cards up on the table and said, Avengers. And it's all gone from there, hasn't it?
Well, apparently Snyder has been talking, and he's been giving little tidbits about how the Suicide Squad ties in with the Dawn of Justice movie.
Yeah, well, see, even from the Suicide Squad trailer, it's obvious that it does a little bit, because you see Batman in there.
Well, he's given us more information now, Dave. Right.
Okay.
Apparently, all the super criminals of the Belle Reve prison, where the Suicide Squad is set, are all there at the hands of Batman.
Okay.
As Batman is a sort of bogeyman to the government, they want to try and bring him down. So this is apparently going to lead to the Joker being seen as the key to capturing Batman, which means that Harley Quinn is going to be their leverage for pushing the Joker to comply.
Okay, I'm not sure that would ever happen, but there you go.
And this Batman is going to be a darker character. Apparently at one point he's rumoured to be carrying a machine gun. He's lost a lot of people who are important to him, rumoured to be both Robin and Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, see, I thought anyway that you see in the Superman vs. Batman trailer, you see the Robin suit with ha 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 on it. So I was already assuming that he'd lost to Robin at some point. But this is clearly a Batman who's been around for a while, isn't it? It's not like he's just setting himself up as Batman.
What do you feel about killing off Commissioner Gordon?
Yeah, I don't approve.
You don't approve?
You know, you've got to have a commission there, I'm sorry.
Although that said, most of the film's probably going to be in Metropolis anyway, isn't it? So
Yeah, that's very true. I don't think you'd need Commissioner Gordon for the Batman vs Superman film, but for an ongoing Batman universe, I think we do.
And that brings this week's news to an end.
From the furthest reaches of the Geek Universe, it's the World of Stu news.
So, before we get on to the main topic of tonight's show, which is the Alien franchise, after we dissected so successfully the Terminator franchise last week, I thought we would shake things up and move the top 10. So, this week's top 10 are the top 10 children's shows from our childhood that we believe would make good movies. Now, this isn't to say, before anyone listens to this and complains and says, oh, cherish memories, yada, 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 I'm not saying that these should ever be made into movies, because I probably don't think they should.
Yeah, some of them I think just, it'll never happen anyway.
Right? It's just that I would rather see these as movies as opposed to just an endless stream of remakes and reboots.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
And in the standard style that we now do our top 10s, we have your 5 choices and my 5 choices. I've just mixed them up and we're going to reel them off, although this isn't necessarily in any particular order. It's just from 10 to 1 for the premises of a countdown.
Okay.
And before we start, I have a couple of Facebook comments because I put the question out. We have Emma Loftus, who agrees that memories should be left alone, but if she was pushed, she would choose either Round the Twist, if you remember that.
That was a very good show.
Or Will o' the Wisp.
I still have memories of that, wondering what was going on.
Well, that was basically just a platform for Kenneth Williams to make a quick buck, wasn't it, really?
It was, wasn't it?
Neil Elkins suggested the Gummy Bears.
Gummy Bears, really?
Yeah. And finally, a good friend of mine and a previous workmate in the form of Scott McShane, he suggested Thundercats. Now, we won't discuss that because it may be about to show up in the list.
Okay. I'm sure, did someone mention that, I may have seen it somewhere else later on, that someone said they're disappointed in Paddington?
I haven't actually seen it, so I can't comment.
See, I loved it. I thought it was a very good film, and my kids loved it. And I know it's not really 100% as the books were, but I think it continues the tradition very well.
I shall try and check it. And my kids have seen it, I just haven't. So here we go with this week's Top 10.
There's something curious about this broadcast.
In at number 10, we have the first of your choices, Dave. It's Jamie and the Magic Torch. A boy named Jamie has a magic torch, obviously, that opens a portal to another world known as Cuckoo Land, which is full of strange characters. Now, I've written down here, and you can give me suggestions if you've got any, Dave, that Tim Burton would be ideal to direct this, but I wouldn't pick him because I have him for a later entry in our top 10. So I would chuck this one to the Wachowskis.
Wachowskis, really?
Yeah.
They could, turn Jamie... Wachowskis would just turn it into a sprawling sci-fi epic. No, it'd be a trilogy before you know it.
And I would have Jamie played by David Mazouz, who is currently killing it as the young Bruce Wayne in Gotham.
Oh, I see. Well, you know what? I hadn't really thought about who should play Jamie. I mean, I always loved the idea of this, and the fact that it's his own little private world. I thought that the only thoughts I'd had was Wordsworth should be a real dog, voiced by Simon Pegg.
Right. Okay.
Because I don't know if you remember, but Wordsworth the dog. He was a. People may correct me if I'm got the wrong breed, but he was like an English sheepdog.
He was, yes.
Well, he could only talk when he was in Cuckoo Land. He had a very thick Gloucestershire accent. And I thought, who better than to provide that voice than Simon Pegg himself? That was the only thoughts I had. I'm not sure Tim Burton would do a great job, so I think actually, I don't know, I'm not sure who should direct it.
In at number 9 we have Mr. Ben, which is one of mine. An ordinary man who enters the changing room of a costume shop and emerges in an adventure relating to what he is wearing. I would personally, following on from his performance in Kingsman, have Colin Firth as Mr. Ben.
Colin Firth, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be good, actually.
Although, obviously not doing what he did in Kingsman as Mr. Ben, because that would be slightly wrong.
Yeah, that would be a bit wrong for that film, wouldn't it?
In at number 8, it's the second of your choices, Jave. It's the second of your choices, Dave. It's Chucky, the story of a boy called Matthew whose imaginary friend turns out to be an alien consciousness communicating with him. It's a little dark and trippy when you think about it, so I would have gone with Chris Nolan after he smashed it with Memento.
You know what, my overall memory of this film is just how weird and trippy it was. So actually, I think, the child should be just played by an unknown child. But the director, I think Duncan Jones, who made Moon, that's probably one of his most famous films, should make this, because he's got a very good, he's shown he can do the human aspect of sci-fi very well.
In at number 7, we have another one of yours, Dave, Rent-A-Ghost.
How can you not love Rent-A-Ghost?
It's a shop that hires out ghosts, of course, which leads to much hilarity. I would argue that this would be far more entertaining than the forthcoming Ghostbusters movie.
I think so, actually.
And I would get together the cast of This Is the End and stick them in it.
I think that could work. I reckon I'd actually love to see Sam Rockwell in this.
Alright, yeah.
There was the character, the Jester, who was Timothy Claypole.
Yeah.
I reckon Sam Rockwell, and directed maybe by Alfonso Cuarón. He did one or two of the Harry Potter movies, and Children of Men, and a whole bunch of other really good movies. I think he could make it a little bit spooky as well.
In at number 6, it's one of mine, and I will admit this is a slight cheat, but I do have a reason. And
Okay.
it's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Right?
Ooh, controversial.
Now, I know it's been done before in 1987, but let's face it, Dolph Lundgren is no He-Man. Hell, the film was based on the comics and didn't even have Prince Adam in it.
No, it didn't, did it?
And it didn't have Orko. How can you not have Orko?
Well, I thought it was actually a really good movie in time.
Okay, well, each to their own, Dave. Everybody loves fantasy. Just look at Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and the MCU. So I would get Chris Hemsworth to hold aloft that magic sword and yell, "I have the power."
That could be quality.
In at number 5, it's another one of mine, we have Wacky Races. Now, it may end up like a cheap knockoff of The Amazing Race, but with an assortment of live action and animation, you could have the special effects team from Speed Racer, and I would also have Christopher Lloyd as Professor Pat Pendin, Emma Stone as Penelope Pitstop, and Hugh Jackman as Dick Dastardly.
Oh, yes, that could be very good.
Can you imagine how cool that would be?
Hugh Jackman would just really camp it up as well, though.
Yeah.
Really good.
In at number 4, it's another one of Dave's choices. It is Erie, Indiana, which tells the story of Marshall Teller, who moves to Erie in Indiana, funnily enough, with his family and has to deal with all sorts of weirdness such as talking dogs, Bigfoot, and Elvis. Now, I don't know what your thoughts were, Dave, but I've got Tim Burton down to direct this.
See, that's just it. I thought maybe if you wanted to make it really dark, maybe you could have David Fincher direct it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think actually Tim Burton would be a far safer bet with this. I think he'd do it really well.
And when I was reminded that Elvis was in it, I cast Bruce Campbell.
Oh, absolutely. I think he'd have to be a major star. He could be a major star in that show.
In at number 3, another one of mine, it is Chorlton and the Wheelies. Now this, of course, tells the story of Chorlton the Happiness Dragon, who lands up in Wheelie World, hatches from a giant egg, and his happiness brings the Wheelies back to life because they've been under an evil spell from the Kettle Witch Funella. Now I would have this film, again, sort of in the style of the Smurfs, where the characters of Chorlton and the Wheelies are animated, and the evil Kettle Witch Funella would be played by Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah, she does that job well. I think she'd be great there.
But I would keep it in Wheelie World and not bring it into the real world.
Yeah, definitely. I think once you start to bring something like that into real world, I think you're in big trouble. A la the Smurfs.
In at number 2, it was the suggestion of Scott McShane, and it is also one of yours, Dave. It is Thundercats. Leaving the dying planet of Thundera, the Thundercats must battle not only Slide and his mutants, but also the big bad Mum-Ra. I personally would cast Rock as Panthro, Jack Black as the voice of Snarf, and Andy Serkis as a motion-captured Mum-Ra.
Andy Serkis, yeah, that could be good actually. Actually, I had, as director, I thought, the obvious choice would be James Gunn, wouldn't it? He's just done Guardians of the Galaxy, he's shown he can do space stuff really well. But actually, I think if you want a really interesting choice, go with Gareth Evans. Know who he is?
Name rings a bell.
He directed Braid and Braid 2. Now, I've got a very good reason for this. All the lead characters are cats, obviously. Now, if you want to get some kind of cat kung fu in there, who better than the guy who's just directed two of the most amazing action kung fu martial arts type films of the last couple of years? Get Gareth Evans to make it, obvious choice. But I thought maybe you remember the old guy who was kind of a ghost?
Yeah.
He was called Jagger. I thought Liam Neeson would be the obvious choice there.
I just can't get over the phrase cat kung fu. That's just got me.
Hey, I've got a great kids book, actually, that would make a great movie sometime too. And one of the main star of that book, he does cat kung fu, okay? I'll tell you the name of the book sometime, maybe in a different show, but it is a quality book. And talking of kung fu, I thought, you might have said The Rock as Panther, right? I thought Batista.
Okay, well, we both had similar sort of ideas there, really, didn't we? So.
But even more, I thought Chitara, maybe Margot Robbie, who's currently filming Suicide Squad. Or maybe you could go a different route and have a slightly older, more experienced actress, have Charlize Theron maybe. And I thought maybe Mum-Ra could be Michael Fassbender. To do a really good bad guy again. And I only thought, of course, most important character of the film, Snarf, I thought Jonah Hill.
In at number 1, it is my choice, and it's quite possibly the greatest cartoon that needs to be made into a movie. It's Jace and the Wheeled Warriors. It's an epic space adventure where a young man named Jace and his ragtag bunch of friends, including a wizard that would be perfect for Ian McKellen, must find Jace's dad and defeat the evil Saw boss. After the success of Guardians of the Galaxy, a movie featuring villainous plants that morph into vehicles would be just perfect for today's movie market.
You know what, though? The really weird thing is, that's the early show I can't remember.
You don't remember Jason the Wheeled Warriors?
No, I don't remember it at all.
That was awesome. It's on Channel 4, I think, on a Sunday morning.
That's probably why, then. I don't remember ever watching Channel 4 on a Sunday morning. No, I don't remember that one at all.
You probably only watched Channel 4 for Brookie, didn't you?
Yeah, afraid so. Especially when they, have the controversial storylines.
Won't go there. And that was this week's Top 10. Once again, do you agree, disagree? You know what to do. So, there we have it. That was this week's Top 10, which means it must be time to discuss the topic of the week. Now, last week, obviously, Dave, we tackled the Terminator franchise.
We did, and I know some people might have thought that my giving Terminator Genesis 1 out of 10 was probably a bit harsh, but I just feel like it deserves it for eradicating the good that was done in Terminator 1 and 2.
Personally, I think you were a bit generous. But anyway, this week we are going to look at the Alien franchise. Now, before we start, yes, I know there are 2 Alien vs Predator movies, but we're not going to mention them because we'll be here forever. Right, we are going to start with Alien from 1979. Now, in this spot now, we would normally have the trailer, right? But I don't know if you remember the trailer for this film, but there is no dialogue.
I don't remember the trailer for it.
It's literally just shots from the movie and eerie music, which wouldn't really work on a podcast.
You know what? I do seem to remember that because it's very similar to the Prometheus trailer that obviously came out years and years later.
So there is no trailer, so we'll just move on. Alien was obviously directed by Ridley Scott, who had previously only directed one film, which was The Duelists. He would go on, of course, to direct Blade Runner, Legend, Gladiator, and American Gangster, amongst other things. This film begins with the Nostromo, which is a commercial towing space vehicle, and it's carrying a refinery with 20 million tons of mineral ore en route to Earth. We meet the 7 crew members as the onboard computer awakens them from their induced sleep on their biobeds. After a nice meal, they deduce that rather than being home, they are at Zeta 2 Reticuli. I apologise if my pronunciation is wrong there, but anyway. Captain Dallas, played by Tom Skerritt, informs them all that the ship has altered course due to picking up a strange signal. This, of course, Dave, is where everything starts to go wrong.
Of course, this is always where it goes wrong, isn't it? That should be the one secret of sci-fi movies, isn't it? If you hear a strange signal or a distress beacon, just don't go there. Just go straight on past, because how many movies does it all go wrong with a signal?
They all gather in the cockpit and they listen to the signal, and it sounds like a voice. They discover it's coming from a nearby planetoid, so that's where they decide to go. Their landing is not smooth, however, and they sustain damage which needs fixing before they can leave. The crew, including the captain, set off on foot to find out what's occurring, whilst Warrant Officer Ripley, played of course by...
Sigourney Weaver.
I can't believe you actually had to pause then.
Sigourney Weaver, sorry, I just had visions in my head. You just said, see what's occurring. I just had visions in my head of the alien crew suddenly landing on our ship going, oh, what's occurring?
She inspects the repairs before working on deciphering the signal. The three explorers uncover a crashed ship which they enter, which is never a good idea. Inside, they find the remains of a huge alien creature which has become fossilised. They note trauma to its chest as if it exploded from the inside and a large hole in the floor. Executive Officer Kane, played by John Hurt, is lowered into the hole where he finds many large leathery eggs. One opens and a creature jumps out, attaching itself to Kane's helmet. Now, if it had attached itself to his lower helmet, this would have been a whole different film.
That could have been a very much more weird film.
Ripley, meanwhile, figures out that the signal is not an SOS, but rather a warning. This discovery is a little too late. Captain Dallas and Navigator Lambert, played by Veronica Cartwright, get back to the Nostromo with an unconscious Kane, but Ripley won't let them in due to quarantine rules and being a hard-faced bitch.
Well, which kind of serves her well for the rest of the film, I believe.
It does, yeah. Ash doesn't give a damn though, and he opens the door. I should just point out Ash is the science officer played by Ian Holm. In the infirmary, they remove Kane's helmet and find a spider-like creature attached to his face. The scan shows that there's a tube going down Kane's throat, helping him to breathe, blah blah blah. A quick cutting off of a limb of the creature shows that it bleeds acid, so they decide to leave well enough alone. Ash and Ripley have a row over letting Kane on board, which technically Ash wins as Ripley leaves before kicking his ass, because let's be honest, that's what she'd do. Later the creature dies and leaves Kane's face. Ripley wants rid of it, but Ash wants to take it home to study, or play with, one or the other. Dallas sides with Ash, which leaves Ripley a tad suspicious. Cue the dun dun dun! After leaving the planetoid and redocking with the refinery, the Nostromo heads for Earth and the crew prepare to return to cryosleep. But Kane wakes up and wants some food. They decide to have one last meal before they go to sleep. Things head south quickly as Kane chokes and collapses onto the table where a creature bursts out of his chest and has a quick look round before legging it. Now, I'm assuming you know the legend of this scene, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. I could absolutely well believe it.
Of course, we're talking about the fact that Ridley Scott claims that he didn't tell any of the cast that this creature was going to burst out of John Hurt's chest because he wanted genuine reactions.
See, I'm not so sure that can be true, though, because obviously the scene must have been shot in several parts. First with them sat around the table, and then later on with him stretched out across the table with some kind of prosthetic stuff on, or in a certain position, so that this thing can burst out of his chest. Surely they'd have some idea of what was going to happen.
Unless they were all just dim.
Yeah, well, maybe they haven't read the script.
Yeah, they're just winging it, improvising as they go.
Yeah.
After sending Kane's body into space, the crew begin to track down the little beastie, but it soon becomes clear that it has already developed into a fully grown ass-kicking alien monster, who is taking great delight in picking them off one by one. After a couple of deaths, including the captain, Ripley is left in charge, and so she asks the ship's computer, called Mother, for some info on their adversary. But Mother refuses to comply due to Special Order 937, which is for the science officer's eyes only. Using an override, Ripley is able to find the following message. Nostromo rerouted to coordinates. Investigate life form. Gather specimen. Priority 1. Ensure return of organism for analysis. All other considerations secondary. Crew expendable. Now, Dave, if you've just seen that message, what would be the first thing you'd do?
First thing, I'd probably get really annoyed at the science officer.
You'd go and kick his butt, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Expendable? No way.
But anyway, the remaining crew, they have a run-in with Ash and using a fire extinguisher knock his head off to reveal that he is in fact an android.
Now, I thought that was quite shocking the first time you see this film as well. But first time you see this film, you've got no idea he's an android. You're like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Reconnecting his head, they reveal that his order was to bring back the creature for study by the company's weapons division and that Ripley and co. didn't stand a chance. Insert evil laugh.
Sorry, that wasn't that evil, was it?
No, try again. Eventually, Ripley's the last person standing, not counting the ship's...
Cat?
Yeah, that's the one, not counting the ship's cat, and she sets the ship self-destruct mode, hoping to escape with the cat in an escape pod and blow the alien up in the Nostromo. She has a brief encounter with the alien, which causes her to leave the cat, though she picks it up again shortly after. They get in the shuttle and make their escape just as the Nostromo explodes. Not that it matters, as the alien is on board the shuttle with them. Ripley defeats it by sending it into space and goes to cryosleep with the cat. Now, before you tell me what you think about this film, Dave,
Okay.
having gone through the 5 films that we're going to discuss, there's an awful lot of similarity in the endings of pretty much most of them.
There is, you make a good point there.
In that every single film seems to end with we're escaping, but the aliens escape with us.
Yeah, I think it did become a bit overused in the rest of the films, but I think as this one did it so well, and they are just a commercial crew. They're not, they're not army guys. They haven't got weapons. They're not trained in ninja combat or anything. I think it absolutely made sense in this film to get rid of it that way.
So, thoughts on Alien?
I watched it again recently, just a couple of months ago, and I'm still amazed at how well it stands up. I mean, okay, there's a lot of stuff in it, like the technology on the spaceship, which doesn't look as up to date as it would if you made a sci-fi film now. For a sci-fi film made in 1979, it looks amazing, and still story-wise as well, it just kept my attention all the way through.
So it's a film you can go back and watch again and again.
I think so, and I think if there's people, anyone listening, anyone out there, who's there's a lot of people, let's face it, who've only come to the Alien franchise with maybe Alien vs Predator, maybe they've only watched Alien vs Predator and Prometheus and just thought, you know what, they're not that great. Go back and watch Alien. Start at the beginning, and you'll have a good idea why this franchise is as successful as it is. Because this, I think, is a 10 out of 10 movie.
It would be 7 years before we would get a sequel in the form of Aliens, which was James Cameron's next project after The Terminator.
Just tell me one thing, Burke. You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
That's the plan.
All right, people, on the ready line. Are you ready? Yeah! Are you ready? Yeah! You on the ready line, Marine? Get down the door! Get on the ready line!
Keep back, don't scare.
Movement! Talk to me, Hudson!
I got signals. I got readings in front and behind.
There's nothing back here.
Look, I'm telling you, there's something moving and it ain't us.
Get them out of there.
How could they cut the power, man? They're animals. There's movement all over the place. 5 meters, man. 4.
Aliens. This time, it's war.
We begin by reconnecting with the escape pod from the first film and see that Ripley is still in cryosleep. She is picked up by a salvage vessel and taken to Gateway Station, which is a facility that orbits Earth. Once awake, she meets Carter Burke, played by Paul Reiser. Blimey O'Reilly, how did he ever get into an Aliens film?
Well, yeah, and what else was he in?
My Two Dads.
My Two Dads, yay.
He represents Wayland Yutani, which is Ripley's employer. They are known as the Company in the first film. She is also told that she has been asleep for 57 years. The 80s sucked pretty much for Sigourney Weaver, as with this bad news and the whole Zool fiasco, she couldn't really catch a break.
You know what? My only quibble with most sci-fi films, okay? For her spaceship to be anywhere close to another planet, her spaceship needs to travel at light speed. Because her spaceship travels at light speed, she would have been away from Earth comparatively hundreds of years because of relativity theory and time distortion. The only sci-fi film to ever get that right, apart from Interstellar, is Flight of a Navigator, a kids movie. Okay? I'm just putting it there, okay? If you travel at the speed of light, there's time distortion, which means you travel away at the speed of light. It might only seem like an hour to you, it's going to be years till people back home. So, sorry, I'm just going to underline that and just say she might have only been asleep 56 years, but actually the time they were away, her children would have been well dead. So, sorry. That's just a little science geek rant there.
Later, at an inquiry, Ripley tries to convince people about the alien menace and is shocked to hear that the planetoid from whence it came, now called LV-426, has already been colonised by terraformers, not Terrahawks, and they are creating an atmosphere to make the place habitable. Ripley thinks that this is a stupid idea, but whatever.
Yeah, well, there's been a bit of a company cover-up there, hasn't there?
Yeah. She finds some digs, but is visited by Burke and a Lieutenant Gorman of the Colonial Marines. Turns out that they've lost contact with LV-426 and are going in. Yeah, and are going in to see what's afoot, but would like Ripley to come along for the ride. Ripley is all like, "Thanks, but no thanks, pal." And Burke is like, "Oh, go on, you know you want to." But Ripley is still like, "I said no, now do one." And Burke is like, "But pretty please with cherries on top." And Ripley is like, "Well, I did love My Two Dads. I'll go on then." Disclaimer, yes, I know that My Two Dads actually came out after this film, but technically she is in the future, so maybe she could have seen it.
Well, that's all else we know him from, isn't it? If he'd been in something else big, then we'd say something else, but we don't.
And we're not going to mention My Two Dads again.
Well, we'll try not to.
They go to LV-426. Is this really the best name that they could come up with? And Ripley is not impressed to discover an android named Bishop, played by Lance Henriksen, is on board after the whole Ash thing. We also learn that the aliens are now being called xenomorphs. Michael Biehn reappears in a Cameron film, this time playing Corporal Hicks, who has the hots for Ripley.
No, does he really have the hots for Ripley, or is he just being nice?
He has the hots for her, certainly by the end of the film.
Yeah, definitely by the end.
The team enter the deserted colony and find evidence of a battle, along with several facehuggers in tubes. Ripley is most startled to find an 11-year-old girl, who she discovers is named Rebecca, but calls herself Newt. The Marines enter another building whilst Ripley stays outside watching on a monitor. Lo and behold, aliens attack and kill multiple Marines until Ripley drives a vehicle into the building to save the 3 Marines left standing. Ripley wants to nuke the whole place, but Burke isn't a fan of that plan, and he believes that the aliens are too important as a species. Burke, who is not from My Two Dads, is outvoted. Doesn't matter though, because an alien causes the dropship that is coming to pick them up to crash, leaving Ripley and co. stranded on the planet's surface.
Now, you mentioned there to pick up the Marines standing. Did you say only 3?
Yes.
I'm sure it's not 3.
Well, whoever.
Hudson, Hicks, Vasquez, and someone else?
4 then.
4, I'm not sure.
Right.
I may be wrong.
3 or 4, there's not many of them left.
There's not many.
Okay, Newt then informs them that they best get a shake on because it will be dark soon and they mostly come out at night. Mostly. They retreat into the main complex and are informed that a rescue team are 17 days away. so Ripley leads them into barricading themselves in. She then instructs Bishop to destroy 2 facehuggers that remain alive, but he is bound by Burke's instruction to keep them from being destroyed. Ripley confronts him, and Burke admits that he wants to weaponize them for cash, and Ripley is like, "Oh no, you didn't."
Bringing a very 90s tone to it.
If all of this wasn't bad enough, the colony's nuclear reactor is going to explode in 4 hours, and the only way to call the second dropship is to remotely do so from a tower. Bishop mans up, although he can't really because he's an android, but you get the idea, and volunteers. While Bishop is doing this hero thing, Ripley has a kip with Newt. Now, why is she going to sleep?
I don't think I'd be able to go to sleep at that time, do you?
There's aliens all over the place. The nuclear reactor's about to blow up, and she goes for a sleep.
To her credit, she is doing the motherly thing, isn't there? There's a whole issue throughout this film of her connection to her daughter, because obviously, being asleep for 56 years, she's lost contact with her daughter, and her daughter is now old and got her own family and so on. So she's kind of trying to replace her daughter as well, isn't she? So she is trying to do the motherly thing of lying down with Newt to get Newt to sleep. But I think there's no way I would be able to get to sleep in that situation.
So anyway, she wakes up and finds that the tubes that contained the facehuggers are now empty. She also discovers that Burke has locked her and Newt inside the lab. Ripley and Newt are almost done for at the hands of 2 facehuggers until the 3 remaining Marines save them, or 4 depending on your take on the film. Whilst they try to decide what to do with Burke, they realise that there are multiple aliens heading in their direction. The aliens get inside and all hell breaks loose as Burke plays the same trick by locking them all in. But as per the rules of moviedom, Burke gets got by a trusty old xenomorph.
Yeah, it might be the rules of moviedom, but it's not the rules of Game of Thrones, certainly not. But yeah, he does get it in the end, doesn't he? Because he is a thoroughly unlikable character by the end.
Although he is quite likeable in My Two Dads.
He's very likeable in My Two Dads, a very nice chap.
It comes down to Ripley, Hicks and Newt, but that doesn't last long as the girl is grabbed by an alien. Bishop shows up with the dropship to facilitate escape, but Ripley isn't having a bar of it and goes back for Newt. During her hunt, she meets the bloody ginormous Queen, who is in the process of laying eggs. Ripley starts blowing the crap out of anything alien-related, which makes Queenie bloody furious. So furious, in fact, that she rips herself free from her egg sac. Take that, women who moan about childbirth. And gives chase to Ripley and Newt, who Ripley found and, of course, saved. As the nuclear reactor reaches critical mass, Ripley and Newt take elevator 1 to the roof, while Queenie takes elevator 2.
It's nice that the alien knows how to use an elevator, isn't it?
Yeah. Our heroes escape and the whole place is blown to hell and the handbasket. Back on the main ship, all seems fine until Queenie appears, just like I said, and rips Bishop in half. Ouchie. Ripley climbs into a power loader exoskeleton-esque machine, think the Matrix Revelations. Is it Revelations or Revolutions?
I don't think it matters. It was pretty awful, wasn't it?
Lays the smackdown on Queenie. Ripley wins, and whoever is left goes into cryosleep for the journey back to Earth. So what do you think of the second film?
Yeah, again, I think the end was a bit lame. I think by the end, it had been enough. You know, the alien gets sucked out the airlock again. But overall, I think, yeah, again, this movie, even when you watch it now, it looks great. The special effects are great. The aliens are awesome. And it's just an incredible action sci-fi movie. And I think people will probably still look back today and see this as being probably one of the best action sci-fi movies there is. So, again, I'd say it's a good 9 out of 10. And just the cast as well. Sigourney Weaver is great again, but it's Marines that do it for me. I love Michael Biehn as Hicks. I love Bill Paxton. I think steals the show as Corporal Hudson, I believe. You know, with all his phrases, you know, game over, man, game over. He's just so endlessly quotable. It's great. But yeah, I love this movie.
It would, of course, all start to go horribly wrong in 1992 when we got Alien 3, courtesy of the directorial skills of David Fincher, who prior to this had been best known for his work on music videos, in particular working with Madonna.
Was there an alien on board?
Yes. There's definitely something in here with us.
We have no weapons of any kind.
Let's start.
It's here!
Now, Alien 3 has gone down in history for its problematic production and the troubles Fincher had trying to get his vision onto the big screen, but we will discuss this after we've covered the plot of the film. We begin with the Solero, the ship Ripley and co. made their escape on in Aliens, which is still en route to Earth. Whilst the survivors remain in cryosleep, we see an alien egg on board. Isn't that always the way, Dave? You think you've got rid of them all and there just so happens to be one left.
It's very convenient that it should be there, considering she ripped off her little egg sac thing, isn't it? And, I don't believe she ever had time to lay an egg, but, who's to know she didn't have a spare moment?
Anyway, the egg, of course, releases a face hugger. The creature breaks into one of the cryotubes and attaches itself to the occupant, though not before starting a fire that causes the ship to eject the tubes into space in an escape pod. Unfortunately, the nearest planet happens to be Fury 161, which is home to a penal colony that is populated by life sentence XYY chromosome prisoners, who are murderers and rapists. And by a twist of unbelievable coincidence, it is owned by
Weyland-Yutani.
Exactly. After crashing, we are shown a message telling us that Newt drowned, bit harsh, Hicks is dead, poor Michael Biehn, and Bishop is damaged beyond repair, leaving Ellen Ripley as the sole survivor. Thoughts on that, Dave?
You know what? I was just gutted because Michael Bihn's character, Hicks, being just disposed of so casually. I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to be in another Alien movie. But considering he hasn't been in that many movies in his career, I couldn't believe that. But I just think it's just such a shame. He was a great character, and I think he could have added quite a bit to the film, if I'm being honest.
Drowning the kid seemed a bit cruel as well.
I'm not sure she would have added much to the film, to be honest. But, but it is quite harsh, and it is the Aliens universe, so people do tend to die some quite grim deaths. I think she might have actually had the easy way out when it comes to this movie.
Prison director Andrews, the late Brian Glover, tells the all-male prison populace about the female in their midst, but also that a company rescue team is on its way to pick her up, so that she doesn't get into any trouble with the randy inmates. Ripley is kept in the infirmary by Dr. Clemens, played by Charles Dance, for her own safety. Waking up, Ripley is far from amused by the news of her travel companion's demise and demands to see the escape pod. On it, she notices some acid burns and immediately concludes an alien has done this. She concocts a story about a cholera outbreak, which forces Clemens to do an autopsy on Newt, but to Ripley's relief there is no sign of alien activity in the body. Ripley then convinces the authorities to burn the bodies. Meanwhile, inmate Murphy is looking for his dog, who we earlier saw barking at a facehugger. He finds the animal with facial wounds and wonders, what's up with that?
You know what? This does kind of lead to something in the Alien movies. If you watch very carefully, okay, the facehugger lays an egg in the dog, doesn't it? And the alien turns out to be a little bit different than eggs which are hatched from humans. So it does kind of it only becomes relevant if you watch all the Alien movies very carefully, but the differences are there to be seen.
Whilst a funeral is conducted for Newt and Hicks, an alien explodes from the chest of the dog, thanks for spoiling that, Dave,
Sorry.
and runs off into the shadows.
Oh, I noticed you complain about the little girl getting drowned, but not about the poor dog.
There was a Rottweiler. It's the devil dog.
Yeah, but still, it's a perfectly innocent bystander in the film.
Ripley shaves her head, it's a lice thing, and hangs out with the prisoners because she's Nails. Whilst the new, fully grown xenomorph begins offing people. Ripley goes in search of Bishop's remains in the hope that he can replay the pod's flight recorder, whilst the alien continues on its merry, murdering way. Bishop Bits, as I'm now calling him, comes online and tells Ripley that an alien did indeed travel with them. Well, duh. And that the company are aware of this. They are on their way to pick Ripley up. Ripley then puts Bishop out of his misery. She next tries to convince Andrews that it's all about to hit the fan, but he's not the most trusting of souls and locks her in the What is it with people locking her in places, man?
Well, she's just one of those characters, and she's quite forceful, and it's just clearly what happens to strong women in the Alien movies.
Whilst in there, Clemens admits that he's a former inmate before he's killed by the alien, who then appears to have Ripley at his mercy, but instead chooses to retreat and leave her alone. The plot thickens. All of the remaining inmates are in the mess hall, where Andrews informs them that those who are missing need to be found. Ripley arrives and shares her alien observations, to which Andrews' retort is, "We ain't got time for that, woman." Alien has Ripley's back, however, by snatching up Andrews and killing him. They come up with a plan involving fire, which backfires, no pun intended, when it goes off early, burning 10 inmates alive. And it is 10 Dave, I checked.
Okay. I'll trust you there.
Ripley feels unwell, and a quick scan reveals she's carrying the embryo of an alien queen. How do they know that it's the embryo of a queen?
I think she says at some point, doesn't she? She says she can feel it's a queen. I'm sure she does.
Okay.
Plus, there comes to a point where the alien is face to face with her, I believe, when she's in the infirmary, and the alien just kind of sniffs her in the way it does, and doesn't kill her, doesn't harm her in any way. So we're left to assume, actually, yeah, there's a reason why the alien isn't killing you. It's because you've already got an egg inside you.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's a queen, does it?
Yeah, but I think she says at some point she feels it's a queen. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure she says she can feel it's a queen.
Okay, well anyway, Ripley concludes that the company knows all this, I'm not quite sure how, and tries to stop the ship coming to collect her, but to no effect. She fronts up to the alien, but the creature isn't about to hurt the mother of the future of its race, so Ripley tries to get an inmate to kill her, but he realises that she can be used to draw the actual alien out. Another plan is concocted, but this goes horribly wrong, as through general incompetence many more inmates die. Outside, the company ship arrives with a steel cage in which they plan to capture the beastie. The plan to kill the alien with molten metal doesn't work, as it just ticks it off basically, proving that the xenomorph is harder than a T-1000.
It is, isn't it?
And only adding water to the mix does the trick, as the alien then explodes. Can you explain the science behind that, Dave?
Yes, it's because the heat just heats it up, and it reflects off the surface, basically. Whereas the water cools it down, exceptionally cools it down too quickly, at which point it cools down, compress very quickly, and shatters, basically. If metal cools down too quickly, when it's hot, it can shatter. And the alien's skin or shell is metal.
Ripley then meets the company team, including the man who designed the Bishop android to look exactly like himself. Narcissist much. Bishop tries to convince Ripley to let him study the queen embryo, but she opts to throw herself into the molten furnace. As she falls, Queenie bursts out of her chest just in time to witness its fiery fate. Now, from the get-go, Alien 3 was a trouble production with several scripts by notable names, who came and went. Most notably, I don't know if you know much of this history, Dave.
I know a little bit.
Okay, well, most notably, one by William Gibson. Do you know about this one?
Oh, yes, William Gibson.
Which turned Geiger's monsters into an airborne Ebola-like disease.
Yeah, no, I think that would have completely destroyed the point.
That emanated from the remains of Bishop. There was also a treatment from Vincent Ward, who was going to direct at one point, whose concept had Ripley land on a vast monastery in space, which was filled with monks, windmills and cathedrals, and was, I believe, made of wood.
Yeah, someone did have the idea of a planet made of wood, didn't they? I'm sure sounds interesting, but I'm not sure it belongs in the Alien universe.
Also, apparently, the studio originally had the idea that Alien 3 would only be half a movie, and it would focus on Hicks, with Ripley not being involved, and that Alien 4 would then pick up Ripley's story.
That sounds like an interesting idea.
So that would have obviously made you happy.
Yeah, that would have made me happy. I think that would have been a good idea. I think they were being a bit short-sighted. I think, being a big franchise by that point and being very successful movies, to have a bit more vision and say, you know what, let's make 2 movies and make them back-to-back would be a great idea.
Following on from Ward walking away, Fincher came on board and had little input on the final draft, but it ended up being the final script was an amalgamation of many of the ideas that had come before. Filming actually began without a finished script, and $7 million had already been spent.
See, that is quite a bit of money for those days, isn't it? To be fair, David Fincher, to his credit, has gone on to be a very good film director, but I don't think, I wouldn't have thought he'd look back as this as his proudest day.
Despite the studio selecting Fincher, they were constantly on his back regarding the production, to the point where he considered his future in movie making full stop. He has since disowned this film and refused to have anything to do with the 2003 assembly cut. Lance Henriksen hates this film, Dave. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
And James Cameron considers the deaths of Hicks, Newt and Bishop a personal slap in the face.
I can understand that. I wonder if he considers Terminator Genesis to be a personal slap in the face. But,
well, no, he actually stuck up for Terminator Genesis, didn't he?
Yeah, I did hear he said something along the lines of, it's better than you think. But, I absolutely agree with James Cameron. The death of those characters, I think, was a bit of a mistake.
At one point, Fox actually sent in a troubleshooter who was so perturbed by what he saw, they ended up sending Fincher home for 3 weeks.
How do you send home the director of a film home? How do you send the director home?
I don't know, I'm assuming he still got paid.
Yeah, you would have thought so, wouldn't you?
And finally, during post-production, Fox wanted reshoots, but Weaver refused to shave her head again, so the option was cancelled. In particular, they disliked the ending, which they felt was too similar to Terminator 2.
It was very similar, wasn't it? But you've already established that this creature is really difficult to kill. How else are you going to kill it? They haven't got any weapons. That's the whole point of the film.
So, anyway, Alien 3, what would you give that one out of 10?
You know what? It's really difficult to give this one a rating. Because I think it's clearly trying to go back to the Alien films kind of roots, one alien, a bunch of people without any weapons. But I just don't think they got it right. And it's clearly quite a mash of ideas. And what I really wanted to see, I think what a lot of people really wanted to see, was the aliens getting back to Earth. And you go back to all the Alien films and we still haven't seen that. We still haven't seen the big alien war that supposedly happens in some of the Aliens books. So, I think I'd give this about 5. It's watchable. It's got some good actors in it. You find out a bit more about the alien itself. So, 5.
Well, anyway, as bad as Alien 3 was, we would soon get worse in Alien Resurrection. Despite the problems with the production of Alien 3 and the negative reaction it received from audiences, it would only be 5 years before we'd be given the 4th film of the franchise. This time around, the man in the director's chair was Jean-Pierre Jeunet, whose prior work was Delicatessen and The City of Lost Children. I don't know if you've seen either of those, Dave?
I haven't actually seen either of those, which kind of, shames me a little. I should have seen some of them, but you can't watch everything.
We begin 200 years after the events of Alien 3, where doctors on the USN Auriga are working to create a clone of Ripley, working from a blood sample that was collected from the Florina 161. The hope is to recreate the queen embryo that she was carrying at the time of her death. Dr. Wren, J.E. Freeman, and his team succeed with their 8th attempt. 8 attempts in 200 years. Christ, how slow are they?
Well, that is pretty slow for, I even understand, for genetic science, that is pretty slow, to be fair.
They remove Queenie from Riplone, as we're now calling her, and decide to fix her up and keep the Riplone around for studying. Once she comes to, the Riplone grows up at a staggering rate. As well as maturing, she is super strong and quick, seemingly sharing DNA with the aliens. The military are hanging around, of course, and they're not particularly enamoured with the Riplone, and only have eyes for Queenie, who is a fully grown being held in a cell. Once the Riplone realises what's up, she warns the people that they cannot control the beast. Cue the entry of a group of space pirates who are delivering the crew of another ship who are all in cryosleep. Now, the military have made this delivery order so that they can implant alien embryos in the unfortunate guinea pigs. Before you know it, there is a number of drone aliens that are now in containment on the ship, which is only going to end in tears, isn't it, really?
You know what? This is really harsh as well, considering we've already seen, back in Alien 3, that they can use dogs. Why are they now using humans? Can they, implant the alien embryos into pigs, or raccoons, or, I don't know. It just seems really harsh. I know, let's use people. Did they not even think first about, I don't know, we could use bears?
Bears? What is it with you and bears tonight, man?
I don't know, use a bear, we've already seen that, okay, actually, yeah, the alien turns out a little bit different for every animal we use. Let's try and use a shark. Or,
Shark.
Let's use a shark. Or how about a mongoose or a raccoon? Or let's see what happens. But no, first step is let's kidnap and use people. It's how harsh is that?
Anyway, one of the pirates named Johnner, Ron Perlman, flirts with the Riplone, not realising what she is, but she soon puts Hellboy in his place. We also meet another pirate named Annalee Cool, Winona Ryder, remember her, who seems to have a hidden agenda which turns out to be killing the Riplone, but we find this out when she confesses to the Riplone after a failed attempt. You can't keep a good clone down. Whilst the crew and pirates have a falling out, the aliens have an alienese chat, and two of them kill a third so that his blood eats through the floor and they can escape containment.
They are very smart.
Yeah. They of course run riot and start killing people. Ripley hooks up with whoever is left, and as they make their way towards a possible escape, they come across the 7 previous Riplones, all of which are deformed in an assortment of ways. Riplone is not happy, Dave, and blows them all up. They then discover a survivor of the impregnation plan, who Cool insists that they bring along despite the Riplone's concerns. At this point we get an underwater sequence just to show off the swimming skills of the Xenomorphs.
That is a very cool sequence, actually.
Well, yeah.
Swim was cool.
But it doesn't really need it, does it? Let's be honest.
No, it doesn't.
Things go from bad to worse as they stumble across a shed load of eggs from within a bunch of facehuggers emerge. Surviving yet another brush with disaster, they climb a shaft, but Ren shoots and kills Cool, which makes the Riplone angry, and you wouldn't like her when she's angry. Ren traps those who are left, but they're freed by Cool. What? Turns out that Cool is an android, which might explain her robotic performance. Boom boom.
Wait, she wasn't that bad, was she?
This is handy, as she can now plug into the Aurorga's computer and make it crash. You see, it's heading for Earth, and we can't have Xenomorphs running rampant now, can we? The Riplone is grabbed by an alien and taken to Queenie, where she learns that the monster has gained Riplone's reproductive cycle, which leads to the birth of the stupidest looking alien-human hybrid creature in the history of moviedom.
Yeah, it just looks gross. That's the only word I have to say for it. Not scary, not violent, just gross.
The newborn kills Queenie and gives the Riplone a hug. All that's missing here is for the newborn to say, "Mommy! Mommy!"
It wouldn't have surprised me at this point.
No. The Riplone legs it, and it appears escape is forthcoming on the pirate ship. But yes, you've guessed it, the newborn is on board. The Riplone does away with the newborn by making a hole in the porthole which sucks the creature through it, though not before the Riplone feels sorrow watching her baby die. They all land on Earth and ponder their future.
I'm not sure how I can describe that movie. I was kind of lost for words by the end with the alien-human hybrid. It was... I have to say, the film had one or two cool moments, don't you think, with the aliens swimming? And I think Ron Perlman was quite cool as well. But to see the Alien franchise get to this point I'm still confused why Sigourney Weaver was in it. I don't know why Sigourney Weaver agreed to be in this movie.
It's a mystery, Dave, one that will never be answered.
It's a shame, isn't it, that, this was one of the last official Alien movies.
So you gave Aliens 3 5 out of 10. What would you give this one?
I'd have to give this about a 3 because it's got some cool moments and some cool characters. And, the Ripley character, for all her foibles, it's another strong female role. It's just a shame the film ended in such a ridiculous way. I don't think it really delivered anything new to the Alien movies either. So I just say 3 out of 10.
So we move on to the last of the current movies in the franchise with Prometheus, which would come a whopping 15 years after Alien Resurrection, and Ridley Scott decided to return to the franchise for the first time since 1979. Although this time around he would bring a different angle to the film with nary a xenomorph in sight.
A king has his reign. And then he dies. It's inevitable.
Prometheus has landed.
These are ancient civilizations that were separated by centuries, and yet this same pictogram was discovered in every one of them.
They're smiling.
I think they want us to come and find them.
We're all here because of a map you two kids found in a cave.
Not a map. An invitation.
From whom?
Please tell me you can read that.
Prometheus, are you seeing this?
Whatever that probe is picking up, it's reading life form. What do you mean a life form?
Oh, the head.
They're changing.
Changing into what?
It's moving? These things moving?
What is that?
There's a ship. They're leaving.
To go where?
Earth.
We were so wrong. Take us home! If you don't stop it, there won't be any home to go back to.
Why is that door open?
Cut it off! Cut it off!
Big things have small beginnings.
It's millions of years in the past, and an advanced alien race lands on Earth. One of them drinks a dark liquid, and its body disintegrates as it falls into the waterfall. We then see its DNA break down and recombines, which seeds the Earth with the building blocks of life. Skip forward to 2089, and on the Isle of Skye, archaeologist Elizabeth, played by Noomi Rapace, and Charlie, who's played by Logan Marshall Green, discover a star map which they interpret as an invitation from ancient aliens. Peter Wayland, Guy Pearce in old man makeup, pays for the creation of the USS Prometheus, which is heading to the moon of LV-223, which is several light years away. The crew are of course in cryosleep whilst an android named David, Michael Fassbender, pilots the ship before waking everyone up in 2093 as the Prometheus arrives at LV-223. Note, this is not the same place as the original film, which is apparently named LV-426. The crew are then informed that they are searching for the engineers who may be the creators of humanity. We also see a message from Wayland, who is now dead. Director Meredith Vickers, Charlize Theron, warns against direct contact with the engineers, and she watches a team go out for a wander while she sits by Captain Janik, played by Idris Elba. They find a bunch of artifacts and some holographic footage of the engineers responding to some sort of emergency. The storm forces some of them back to the Prometheus, but they take a cylinder containing black fluid and an engineer's head with them. Once in the Earth-like atmosphere of the ship, the head disintegrates. The crew then get all deep and meaningful about the meaning of life. David wonders why he was created, and Elizabeth questions her existence due to her infertile nature. Where is Stephen Hawking when you need him, Dave? Where is Stephen Hawking?
But have you mentioned why they get a bit existentialist? Because they take a DNA sample from the alien head, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all a bit arty-farty for me, though. It's an alien film.
Yeah, but they take the DNA sample from the alien's head, and they show that the alien's DNA is exactly the same as human DNA.
Anyway, David intentionally infects Charlie with the black liquid because androids are evil. Meanwhile, 2 crew members who didn't make it back are attacked and killed. Finally, some action! Once the storm subsides, the crew discover the bodies of their fallen comrades, while David discovers an engineer in stasis and a star map highlighting Earth. Charlie deteriorates due to the liquid, and Vickers kills him with a flamethrower. Elizabeth then discovers that she is pregnant after having had sex with a liquid-infused Charlie. She's not taking this line down, however, and removes a cephalopod creature from her abdomen. Who removes a creature from their own abdomen?
Yeah, but that's the point, isn't it? She showed from David showed her from the scan that actually she's, like, even though they only got it on the previous night, she's supposed to be something like 16 weeks pregnant, so it's growing at a ridiculous rate. So she is totally freaked out by that.
Wayland turns up, he's not dead, and Vickers turns out to be his daughter, and his plan is to ask the engineers to help him cheat death. A bit more action occurs with a few more deaths before those left wake the last engineer, who is inside a ship of the same design as the crashed one discovered in Alien. The engineer does not play well with others and decapitates David before killing Wayland and taking off. David isn't done yet, however, and tells the others that the engineer is going to release the liquid on Earth and kill everyone. J-Nick isn't taking that, so he rams the engineer's ship with his own, causing them both to crash down onto the planet. Alas, Vickers, who is trying to escape, is crushed by the wreckage. Elizabeth is this film's Ripley, and she survives. She finds David's head and, using another engineer's ship, after using the creature from her abdomen, which is now fully grown, to kill the engineer, she flees the engineer's home planet, Paradise, so she can find out why they created humanity to then try and destroy it. The final shot of the film is a xenomorph bursting out of the engineer's chest. Now, if all of that sounded confusing, it's because it was.
It was a very confusing kind of film, but, it wasn't easy. And I don't know you, but I don't always like my movies to be easy. Sometimes I like them to have kind of interesting ideas, and certainly one of the big interesting ideas in this was David, played by Michael Fassbender. Whatever else you say about this movie, Michael Fassbender was brilliant in this movie. Agree or disagree?
To be honest, can I be honest with you now?
Okay.
I've only seen this movie once, right?
Okay.
And I don't really remember a lot of it because it just bored the pants off me. So I will go with anything you say about this film. You are the authority on this film rather than me.
Okay, well, I think I've seen it about 2-3 times. But, I know a lot of people don't like it. It's a very different kind of alien film. But I think there's some interesting ideas in there, and I think Ridley Scott was clearly trying to take control of sort of his creation again, because obviously in between Alien Resurrection and Prometheus, there were those terrible Alien vs Predator movies, which I'm sure we'd like to try and forget. But it's more of a prequel, isn't it? So all the Alien movies to show how the aliens first came about. And I think this film's almost got too many monsters in it. It's got David as the android, who's got a bit of a ghost in a machine going on there, that he's quite amoral as a character. He'd happily sacrifice anyone he can to do just a little bit of science and watch what happens. You've got the aliens themselves, which actually turn out to be more of a virus of some kind, don't they? More of a biological weapon. And then you have the engineers themselves, who are obviously, I think that's an interesting idea myself. A civilization millions of years ahead of our own, capable of designing and destroying life as they see fit. You know, how are they going to regard us? Stephen Hawking has said himself that he doesn't think we should be getting in touch with advanced civilizations because this is what could happen. What's going to happen when we come in touch with an alien civilization millions of years ahead of us? We'll just look at this and go, "You're ants to us. We don't care. We're just going to tread on you." And that's what happens in this film. They meet one engineer. And so I think, if anything, this film suffers from just having too many good ideas and not always getting them quite right in its execution.
So what would you score this one out of 10?
It's really difficult because I really enjoy this film. I love it. But I can see that it's got its faults. So I'm going to say maybe 7, 8 out of 10. But I'd say it's well worth watching. Even if only just to watch Michael Fassbender just have an uncanny performance as an android. And Idris Elba, by the way, is totally wasted in this movie, which just seems to happen in his career. I don't know why. He's an incredible actor, but he's wasted in this.
So there you have it. That was our look at the Alien franchise. There are more films coming up, but we won't discuss them now because I'm sure we will be somewhere recording something when they come out.
Well, there is hope for the future, let's put it that way.
Yeah. So if you have a franchise or a series of films or anything that you want us to have a look at, you know where all the places you can find this on the website, which is silentmovieman.wix.com/World of Stu. You can leave comments on there, or on the Facebook page, World of Stu, or on the Mixcloud, where you can go and listen to this show. There's probably a place there where you can put comments and say, "Oh, I want you to do like the Spy Kids movies or whatever." We'll do whatever. We're easy. So all of this leads us nicely on to the final part of the show, which is this.
There is a phenomenon of nature, dark and mysterious, a force that strikes without warning, so powerful and so devastating, it destroys everything in its path.
It's Dave's Review.
So what have you got for us this week, Dave?
Today I have watched Insurgent, which is the second in the series of the films from the books, the Divergent series of books. Obviously, a couple of years ago, the first film, Divergent, came out, starring Shailene Woodley. Basically, they're set in a almost utopian future where this one city, the only city to have survived the apocalypse, was Chicago, nicely enough. And when you become a teenager, you get to choose between 5 different factions of society. Basically, you can work for, you can be a warrior, you can be a lawyer, you can be an intelligent government type person, or you can be nice to the poor people. That's basically a choice. And once you've chosen, bingo, that's you for the rest of your whole life. But in the first movie, we saw the main character Triss. She ignored her parents and she chose to go into the warrior cult called Dauntless. And she had to take a test. Turns out she's divergent. She doesn't fit into one particular group. Big fights happened, but basically this second movie takes place almost immediately after the first, which I quite like it when it happens. You know, the second movie just takes off straight away after the first one. When there's been a big fight, we find Triss on the run from the government, and the government are all trying to round up all these divergent people who don't fit into one particular group. And the rest of the film is basically she's on the run. We find out a little bit more about her boyfriend, who's just called Thor. Bit of a weird name, but Thor. He's played by Theo James. Quite a cool upcoming actor, if you noticed. The rest of the movie is a bit of a chase movie. They're being chased by the bad guys. And of course, something has been found, a MacGuffin, as we call it in the movies. You know, this MacGuffin is really important, and only someone who's Divergent can open it. And of course, who's it's going to be? It's going to be Triss. I'm not going to spoil this movie too much, but unfortunately, I haven't been as upset or annoyed by the end of the film for a very long time. The movie kind of plods her on really well up until about the last 10 minutes, when this gadget opens up and the message is revealed, which has been the whole point of the movie. And you know, it's the second part of a series of 3 books and 3 films. I'm not sure I'm going to bother watch the third one now, because I was so annoyed by the end of the second one. But, you know, it's got a strong female lead. I know that's really popular these days with the Hunger Games and Twilight and all that stuff. So, by all means, if you enjoyed the first one, watch this, see what you make of it, but just be warned, you might be really annoyed by the end of it.
See, now I watched the first one of these, right? But I tend to find that all these films are really interchangeable, and I get confused as to what's going on in which one, because you've got like sort of 3 franchises. You've got the Maze Runner, you've got the Hunger Games, and you've got Divergent, and they're all pretty much just the same sort of thing going on, and I get confused. But maybe that's just my age.
They are very similar, and I think it's only inevitable. Movie companies, they see one thing that's working really well. Same thing will happen with Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. Movie companies all start to go, oh, what can we make? What can we make? And, you know, you've got a couple of good films, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, but you also end up with the occasional Golden Compass. I think this is what's happening now. You've got Hunger Games, which is kind of, you know, it's pretty good. I have to say I'm enjoying Hunger Games films. I'm not going to bother reading books, but there you go. And I think this clearly hasn't got quite as strong a story as the Hunger Games, because I don't know about you, but when I watch a film that's set in a futuristic utopia or a futuristic dystopia, I like it to make sense. I want to look at that world and think, you know what, that makes sense. But supposedly in this world, their whole city is surrounded by a wall, surrounded by a deadly radioactive zone or whatever, and no one goes outside it. No one goes to explore. No one thinks, you know what, I know they told me it's radioactive, but I'm not going to go and have a look because I'm a good boy. No one's ever done that in this film. So, I don't think it's a particularly strong second part of the trilogy myself. But, who knows, maybe I will watch the third part and I'll be blown away. These things happen.
Score out of 10?
I'd give it a 5.
Okay.
I watched it all the way through to the end. I was really annoyed by the end, but I'm certainly not going to watch it a second time, and I'm not going to go out of my way to watch the third part at the cinema. Whereas opposed to the Hunger Games, where actually myself and my kids have been thoroughly entertained by all 3 movies so far, and now myself and the kids want to see the last part at the cinema as soon as it comes out, because it's been very strong films all the way through.
And that was Dave's review. Now, I want to finish this week's show by quickly mentioning, we did this a couple of weeks ago when the last one unfortunately passed, and quickly talk about Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Legend.
Right. Now, obviously, Rowdy Roddy Piper is a famous American wrestler / actor who unfortunately passed on the 31st of July, a couple of days ago. He died at the age of 61 of a heart attack. Now, I don't want to dwell on the fact that he's dead, but he is an absolute legend, and for me, he is probably the guy that every heel in the wrestling business models himself after.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'd like to think that he was actually so good at that heel role that he actually became quite a successful face as well, quite a successful good guy, without changing his character too much.
Because obviously he was in the first ever WrestleMania main event, opposite Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, and everyone always bangs on about obviously Hulk Hogan being the big star and making WrestleMania. You cannot have a big face without having a powerful heel.
Absolutely.
So what are your memories of Roddy Piper? Because my first memory of him is from WrestleMania 6. I know we did this with Hulk Hogan when we were talking about him last week. My first memory of him was WrestleMania 6, where he was having a match against Bad News Brown, and he did a promo before the match where he blacked up half his body. Now, obviously in this day and age you couldn't get away with that, but he wasn't being racist. He was trying to prove a point that it wasn't a race thing, because the black people and the white people all supported him. It was just a, I hate you and I'm going to kick your butt thing. And from that moment on I was like, that is a different character. He's not a comic book like the Ultimate Warrior or like Hulk Hogan. He is just a guy who is shouting his mouth off and doing what he likes. He was pretty much Stone Cold Steve Austin before Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He was, wasn't he? And I think, saying about Roddy Piper, he wasn't the most athletic guy. He wasn't the most technical wrestler. He wasn't a high flyer. He just got under the ring, did a bit of brawling, shouted his mouth off, and went a bit crazy sometimes. But I have to say, one of my favourite memories of Roddy Piper, I forget what year it was. It wasn't my first memory of him, but certainly my favourite. Going back probably 1990 something, I went to see the WWF, as it was then known, in Birmingham. And one of the matches of the night was one of the biggest new stars, The Undertaker, versus Roddy Piper. And it was such a fantastic match. Obviously, The Undertaker just laid waste to Roddy Piper, but I just remember the end of this match was so classic. Undertaker had tombstones Roddy Piper. He brought up the body bag. He was just about to zip up the body bag when two fingers poked Undertaker in the eye. Roddy Piper climbed out of the bag, started punching and kicking and punching and kicking, and Undertaker got dragged down the aisle by Paul Bearer. So, technically, Roddy Piper, I suppose, won that match. But it was such an awesome match, and still to this day, I would say, Roddy Piper versus Undertaker, I've been to like 3-4 wrestling events, still one of the best matches I ever watched. And, yeah, he was just a great wrestler to watch.
And do you remember his backlot brawl with Goldust?
I don't remember that, but because I didn't actually see that live, but what I do remember is certainly the sort of backlot brawl in classic film, They Live.
Of course, which was directed by John Carpenter and starred Roddy Piper, and is a cult classic.
It is a cult classic, but just watching that film, I just kind of laughed out loud the fight scene he had in that movie, and just some of the great one-liners. I don't think even Roddy Piper would have ever claimed that he was a great actor, but I think he was awesome in that movie. He was just perfect for it.
And can I just say, my wife told me the other day, she doesn't like They Live. Is that grounds for divorce?
You know what, I think it might not be grounds for divorce, but certainly you're going to have a few words there, make sure she watches a few films to appreciate the classic.
So, Roddy Piper, we salute you, sir. The wrestling business has lost another legend. Before we go, Dave, you mentioned The Undertaker there. Quick word. If The Undertaker beats Brock Lesnar, we riot.
Absolutely. There's no need for it. Undertaker beats Brock Lesnar, gives nothing to the business. Brock Lesnar has to win.
We are going to end this week's show, because we've just been talking about Roddy Piper, with the single that he released back in the early 90s. It's called I'm Your Man. Don't know if you ever heard this, Dave.
It's stirring a memory from way back in the day.
If you want to see the video, I suggest you check it out. It is unbelievably camp and cheesy. Like I say, it's Roddy Piper, I'm Your Man. We will be back in a couple of weeks' time, because we are taking a break for various holidays and all the rest of it. Although
we're all on holiday.
Although there will be a special World of Stu show next week when I will be talking to Gary Smith as I do my second FM 107 The Falcon special. Stay tuned for that, that's coming next week, but the World of Stu as the show behemoth that it is now of geekdom will be back in a couple of weeks' time, right Dave?
We will be back.
So, till then, keep it geek.
I've been watching you all night, 'cause everything about you, it's so right. The way you look, the way you move, the things you say, the things you do. Oh baby, I've been looking for you all my life. And if you're looking for someone that'll treat you right and never cheat on you, will never